So apparently I'm supposed to be responsible for the shipping costs associated with gear that's sent to me for review. And it sounds like Victory just released the Kraken MKII, and we're going to talk about that really quick. And do people agree with me regarding what I said on my last video? Should YouTubers not only be influencers to you guys, but also to gear manufacturers? And do you think the new Engl SE Founders Edition amplifier could beat the Savage Mark II? And per your request, I show you guys what goes into writing my solos. All that and more in today's Riffs and Responses video. Let's get started. Well, hey guys, thanks for joining me for today's video. I really appreciate you guys spending some time with me, and I'll just get right into it. So this first comment is from James Moses 4066. He says, Victory just released the Kraken Mark II. I hope they release the Super Kraken Mark II. They added a presence knob, although apparently it still struggles with that sizzle even with the presence. Well, I am aware of that, and thanks for commenting. And I really want to get my hands on that, because that, in my opinion, was the one thing that kind of was a bummer on the original Kraken or Super Kraken. It didn't have a presence knob. So in order for it to have that nice cut for a mix, you had to put an EQ in the loop and bump some of the frequencies to add that presence to it that it was lacking. Still sounds great without it, but I think that adding the presence knob was very smart on their part. And honestly, I wish they would have kind of retooled the amplifier after people were saying that and just re-released it with that update. You know, that would have been cool. But hey, I don't own an amp company. I don't know what's all involved in that. So I'm just glad that they re-released the amplifier as a Mark II version and they fixed that issue. And if I get a chance to get my hands on one, I will definitely check it out and demo it for you guys. All right, this next comment is from Echo 3, I guess, and this comment was on my video that I did about things needing to change on YouTube. It was my last video I just did. He says, you've reached out to someone and you are mad that you have to pay for shipping? What? You want to demo it, not him. What a BS. I have tons of dollars. Send me stuff because I have expensive stuff, please. Dude, let me explain to you how things work on YouTube. Okay, because obviously you don't know because you have your head all the way up your ass. So basically how it works is this is a business, okay? And what we do is we reach out to companies and ask them to send us gear so that we can demo it for them so that they can make sales, or we can help them make the gear better or whatever. Now, everything that gets sent to us isn't because a company called us or emailed us. A lot of times it's because we reached out to them. And most businesses understand how that works because they know that if the demo goes well and we like the gear and it sounds great in the demo and people like it, they're going to buy it. Hence, that company gets the sales. Why should I pay for shipping on a product that doesn't benefit me? It benefits them. And just so you know, because obviously you don't, because again, head up ass, how it works is YouTube pays us ad revenue. And on a video like that, I would probably make $15 to $25. And that won't even cover half the shipping. So if a company wants to send me something, whether it's because I contacted them or they contacted me, it's on them to pay for the shipping for it. And here's something else that you obviously don't know. I don't have a FedEx account or a UPS account. Most YouTubers don't because we don't ship things for a living. But these companies do, and because they do, shipping for them is way cheaper than it is for someone like us who don't have accounts with UPS or those other shipping companies. When you have an account, you save a ton of money. You pay a fraction of the cost because you're shipping in volume, which means you get a discount. So it's not a big deal for a company like that or a manufacturer like that to pay shipping for something that they need to send to me. You know, it's a fraction of what I would pay. So for them to expect me to pay my price, which would be probably 5 times as much as what they would pay, is complete bullshit. So yes, companies should pay shipping, whether I reached out to them or they reached out to me to do the gear demo. I've ran a pressure washing business for 23 years now, and most of the jobs that I've gotten as far as commercial jobs go, like truck fleets and stuff like that, I got because I called them. not because they called me. Now, there are jobs where they've called me and, you know, they had an issue with the guy that they were using before me and they reached out to me and had me wash their fleet. But so if I called them and got the job, does that mean I have to do it for free because I called them? It doesn't work that way, dude. As YouTubers, we make a living on doing gear demos. That's how we make our living. And for us to have to pay shipping is complete bullshit. Not only that, we should get paid for the review as well, and I have no problem with that at all because it's a ton of work to do these reviews, and these same companies used to pay a lot more just to have a corner page in a magazine with a picture and a quick little blurb about their product. And that basically is what they did for years until we came into play here. So, and I honestly think that we give 1,000,000,000 times more value than some stupid picture and a sentence in a magazine. So are we worth it? Absolutely. We're worth it 100% because you can hear it, you can see it, and you get our thoughts on it, and you can actually comment in the comment section and have a back and forth with us as well. Now, this next comment is from Mark Tulo, 35. He says, I absolutely rely on what you guys think of a product and fully understand how much time and money had to be laid out for you to do these videos. I appreciate what you and so many other influencers have to say while reviewing an amp, guitar, or effects unit. And as a result, I am then educated about what that gear can do and what I can expect by purchasing it. Without these videos, we are back to the early days when the only thing we had were advertisements in Guitar Player or Cream magazine. I have been playing long enough to know that back then it was a crapshoot when it came to buying gear. Keep up the good work and thanks. Hey, thank you, man. And this actually makes my point perfectly that I just made in the previous comment. You know, we do a lot on these channels, and I speak for all of us, I mean, to give you the best presentation that we can. You know, and a lot goes into that, and I'm happy to do it, and I think all the other guys are too. And a lot of us, I mean, believe it or not, we don't get paid for it. You know, but depending on the size of your channel, you're lucky to get a company to take you seriously. And I'm starting to get to the point where people are starting to take me seriously. I just passed 11,000 subscribers a couple weeks ago, and I'm grateful for where I'm at, but I'm nowhere near where some of these other channels are, these bigger channels. Now, I understand that when you get to a certain point, I mean, people do recognize you because it's hard to ignore these bigger channels. Like every single gear manufacturer out there knows who Ola England is. You know, I mean, he's huge. And Glenn Fricker and a lot of these other guys, they know who these guys are. But a channel that my size, I mean, even though, yes, I'm at 11,000 and very grateful to be here, I'm very small compared to these guys. So I have to make phone calls and I have to reach out to these people in hopes to get the gear sent to me. But we're happy to do it. And we love doing it. It is fun, but it's also a lot of work. And I'm grateful for the people who appreciate the work that we put into doing our videos, you know. And I hope to continue doing it for you guys. And I'm always trying to up the ante as far as my production value goes here on the channel. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel because I will be making some upgrades here to the set very soon. And just, you know, overall just, you know, production upgrades, and hopefully you guys will notice them when it happens. And I can tell you this, I do my best to give you the most honest review that I can of a product. I don't do any pre or post production to anything. I don't try to enhance anything to make it sound better. What you get are raw tones here. There's no compression. There's no, like I said, pre-production or post-production, and there's no EQ put on anything. There's no fixing of anything. It's just raw tones that you get on this channel. Okay, this next comment is from Ronnie Milia. I'm sorry, I forgot to screenshot it in a way where I got your whole name, so I apologize. He says, what Engl amps have you played? Is your Artist versus Savage part of a longer episode? Do you think the SE Founders Edition will beat your Savage of the clips you've heard? Of those I've had in my studio, Artist Edition, Savage Mark II, Savage Mark I, and Fireball. So I've had the Artist Edition, I've played the, obviously the Savage Mark II, I've played the Fireball, and I think the Iron Ball as well. So I think all those amps are really good and they're right, but I think as far as I'm concerned, so far, my favorite is the Savage Mark II, especially Channel 4. That channel on that amplifier is money. It's so good. Now, the new amp, you know, the SE Founders Edition, I mean, I'm definitely going to be reviewing it. Engl is sending it to me, and I'll be reviewing it very soon on the channel, and I'll shoot it out against the Savage Mark II. Now, as far as I'm concerned, what I've seen, I think that it's possible for the SE Founders Edition to possibly be better than the Savage, because Channel 4 on the Savage Mark II is my favorite channel on that amp. The other channels are good, but you know, once you play Channel 4, it's hard to go to the other ones. I mean, Channel 2 is a good crunch channel, but I wish it was fuller and had a little more gain. And it just lacks a little bit. I could use it, but as soon as you switch from that to Channel 4, you're like, oh, this is where it's at, you know? And it's hard to go back after that. Now, from what I've seen on the special edition, there's 2 channels on there that are full and high gain and all that kind of stuff. And so if that is the case with that amplifier, in my opinion, I think it would probably beat the Savage, because now you have 2 awesome channels instead of 1. And that's just my opinion, but we'll see when it gets here, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. This next comment is from Will Tomeo, and this is on my Friedman IRX demo. He says, this is the first demo that makes this pedal sound good. I've been checking the videos about this and none really impressed me, but your demo is great. Thank you. Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you enjoyed the demo and liked how I dialed it in. See, the thing is on YouTube, I mean, it's all subjective, right? I mean, you can watch 10 different demos of the same thing, and you're going to like some of the demos more than others, some of the ways that guys dialed it in better than others, and that's just the way it goes here. I'm sure there's people that watch my videos and prefer somebody else's over mine. That's just the way it goes, but I do appreciate it when people do stop by and drop something like that in the comment section and give me that kind of encouragement. I'm glad that he liked the video. A lot of people did, and I'm very grateful for that. And I got to tell you, that pedal, I mean, it just sounds amazing by itself. And I just think if you dial it in right and play some cool riffs on it and put it in a nice mix like I did, I mean, it just sounds amazing. So I want to see Dave Friedman do more pedals like that. I want to see him do one for every single one of his amps. I think that would be cool, and I do think he'll do that in the future. I mean that pedals sound like crazy, so he'd be crazy not to, right? But again, thank you for the kind words. I do appreciate it very much, and I'm glad you liked the video. And like I've said many times on this channel, I do my best to make sure everything sounds really good in my studio here without enhancing anything. I just try to get the most I can out of each product with no enhancements at all and let the product speak for itself. Okay, so in this segment, a lot of you have asked me to basically just show how I do my solos and maybe like how I write them and maybe explain some of my riffs or show you some of my riffs or whatever, you know. So I'm just going to do a little bit of that in this segment here. So let's start by watching like just part of a solo that I did in the breakdown portion of a new song that I wrote called Chasing Infinity. So as you can hear in this segment, there's a lot of dynamics going on. So I had to build this solo so that when the song kicked in, I had to have a ramp up into that, you know, and I wanted to change the dynamics while that whole build part was happening. So the part I actually wrote first in this song is this right here. And I didn't want to start the breakdown section with that because it was too happy. And the rest of the song is kind of like this big, majestic kind of thing. And I wanted that part to go right before that. So I had to shift that part all the way to the end of the breakdown, going into the big epic part, or whatever you want to call it. And I wanted to set that part up with something that was a little more dark and dramatic, you know. So let's go through each little part that I played before it got happy or sunny or whatever you want to call it. And I'll go over each segment and discuss what I played, why I played it, and I'll also talk about the dynamics and the nuance associated with those things. So here's the first segment. Okay, so that's a pretty easy to play segment. I mean, most of this stuff is. It's not difficult, but it's all about the nuance and the dynamics. So that first note, you know, it's the first impression that you have in that segment there. And I wanted to be dramatic, and I wanted to be a little darker and a little more mysterious, you know what I mean? And instead of just going... You know, that first note really says a lot, you know. I mean, there's a bunch of ways I could have played that note. You know, I could have slid into it. I could have slid backwards into it. I could have just smacked it. And I could have done a pinch harmonic. But I wanted something that was a little more mysterious and a little more dramatic. So when I was writing that segment, I started out by sliding into it, which is fine, but I figured out by using the whammy bar, I could actually have a better approach to that note. It just has this like ominous sound and feeling about the note, you know. I mean, so that's kind of why I went with that. And then there's also some other stuff going on here too. So let's go over this again. So this is kind of subtle, this last segment here. So instead of just going, I went. So it just adds a different feel to it. I mean, I know that that's kind of subtle, but those are the things that separate you from everybody else, you know? I mean, adding those little nuances and different things to your notes and how you approach them is definitely what gives you your signature sound. That's how you can tell George Lynch is George Lynch, you know? Because he does all that stuff. Eddie Van Halen, same thing, you know? I mean, so all of those different things that you put into your playing is going to put your spin on those things and add your signature to them. So let's go from this to the second segment now. So in that segment, it's just a, you know, kind of a typical blues riff. You know, everybody knows that one, but I put a little bit of spin on that. So instead of going, it's too bluesy and it's not dramatic and dark enough for me. So what I ended up doing was that big slide. When I grabbed both strings there, it just added a little more aggression to it, you know, and added to the darkness that's associated with this whole segment. You know, because if I kept it bluesy, it's too bluesy, you know, it doesn't have that dark, ominous feel to it, as opposed to, It's just aggressive, you know? So it's just those little things. I mean, I just added a second string to it, you know, instead of... It just makes it more aggressive. So that's another way you can put your spin on stuff, you know? So it's cool. It's cool to steal riffs and put your own, you know, your own spin on it. Like, it's the whole thing where it's like you just repaint it and polish it up and make it your own, you know? So it's kind of fun to do. So that's another segment there. Okay, so let's go to the next segment now. So the next segment pretty much goes like this. So in that, basically, instead of just keeping it basic, I mean, I could have just went... Which would have been fine, but there's just not a lot of character there, you know? So I want to stay dramatic, and that's why I slid up to that note. It just has a more dramatic appeal to it. So instead of keeping it basic, I did the tap harmonic, you know. It just has a more dramatic appeal to it, and it stays in that kind of, you know, mode or that motif that I'm trying to stay in, you know, with that segment. So it's just those little things, and I know what I'm showing you here isn't like some kind of big master class on like, oh wow, thanks for showing me that riff or whatever, but it's simple stuff that you can do, that anybody can do to spice up your solos. You know, it doesn't take a ton of practice. You just have to think outside the box a little bit and add some little nuance here and there to your notes, and it really makes things a lot more interesting. And that's really what you're looking at here. You want to keep the listener's interest, you know, as opposed to just playing the same old stuff all the time. Add some nuance to your playing, and that's what separates you from everybody else. And that's why, like, the big master players out there, you know, like John Petrucci and George Lynch and Eddie Van Halen and, you know, all these guys were so above the fray. It's not because they're shredders or they're fast. I mean, yeah, all that stuff's great. It really is. But if you don't have nuance to go with all that stuff and you know, out of the box thinking when it comes to, you know, approaching your notes and just adding little things to them here and there, you just sound like everybody else. You know, so again, this segment, into the next segment. Again, just another bluesy riff, but and if you notice, I'm trying to leave space in between each segment. I'm not trying to let them run into each other. I want that space there to kind of let the tension build, you know? And that's what I'm doing here too. I'm building tension up to whatever part I'm going to do next. And that anticipation that's associated with those spaces in between segments is actually kind of cool. So that adds to it as well. You know, there's an old saying, the notes you don't play are more important than the ones that you do play. And that's applied here big time in all of these segments and the spaces in between them. So pretty simple section here, you know. And then here I go. But then I add this little segment on the end of it because, again, I'm going into that sunny part next, that shiny, you know, happy part, you know, that's like the clouds are parting and the sun comes through. And I'm trying to set it up. And I felt that the whole... wasn't really enough to set that up, so I went this way. And then I go into... it just seemed to set it up better, and that's what I was thinking about. So you got to think like kind of like chess, right? 3 moves ahead. Think about what part's coming next and how you want to set it up and hand it off to that part so that it's not uncomfortable, so that the transition into that part, especially if you're changing, moods, is appropriate. It's not shocking or jarring or anything like that. It just flows. It's almost like expected, but unexpected at the same time. You don't want to be predictable, but after you hear the next segment that you're going into, you want to be like, there's that relief, like, there it is. The weight's lifted, the clouds are parting, it's a little brighter out, and it just feels happier and feels better. And if you can set that up, if you can go from dark and murky or, kind of aggressive or, dynamic, dramatic or whatever, into something that's sunnier and happier, that's actually a good thing. If you can transition into those things properly and make it sound natural, you've achieved something great as far as writing solos is concerned. So one more segment here, so let's go back over the sunny, happy part, So in that segment, I'm using a lot of pedal notes. There's a lot of different pedal notes that I'm throwing in there and doing some slides and doing something that is, again, nuance filled. I'm not doing the basic way of doing this. Like the basic way would be... I mean, that's fine, but I mean, something with the pedal notes and the nuance actually sounds more interesting. So you have the slides, you have the pedal notes. I mean, you're really adding a lot of nuance by doing that. So what I mean by the slides is basically this. Instead of just double tapping the notes or whatever, I'm sliding into them. So you got that whole... See what I mean? It's just more interesting. It's just different. So those are the things I wanted to show you in this video. So there's no shredding, there's no crazy guitar playing and, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I honestly think that it's more interesting to do that kind of stuff in your solos and apply those nuances and just different techniques and different ways of hitting your notes that can make your solos stand out and sound much better, because if somebody shreds their ass off, I mean, that's cool that you can go fast and do all that kind of stuff, but if it's lacking the nuance and all of that great feel and the dynamics, then after a few minutes, it just gets boring. It's like, I've heard that. I've heard fast playing. I mean, there's nothing special about it. That's just skill. That's not talent. So putting the nuance in, that's where the writer in you comes out. And I'd rather listen to a more interesting writer than a more technically gifted player, So I hope that helps you guys, like with your solos and your writing. And as you can see, all the stuff that I played here is easy. It's really easy to do, but it's fun to get more creative with your notes and think about how you approach each note a lot better. Should you do a pedal note before you play that note? It's very easy to do. Should you slide into it? Should you slide backwards into it? Should you hit a pinch harmonic, or should you do the old dive bomb kind of rise up kind of thing into it? I mean, there's so many ways to hit each note in your solos, and the more you think about that, the more interesting your solos will be. So I really hope that helps you guys out. And I appreciate you guys asking me to do a segment like this. And if you like this segment and got something out of it, please comment below and let me know your thoughts. And let me know if you want me to do more segments like this in my weekly videos. I mean, I am definitely not a guitar teacher by any means. I mean, that's a tough job. Just doing this, just coming up with the vernacular and the descriptions and presentation of this was pretty tough, to be honest with you. So tip the hat to the guitar teachers out there. It's not an easy job. But again, if you do like my approach to this, I will do more segments like this in future videos for you guys. Well, guys, that about wraps it up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And leave a comment below on what you'd like me to discuss on next week's video. Ask me anything. I'll be happy to answer your questions in next week's Riffs and Responses. Well, to all my subscribers and Patreon supporters, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys. And if you guys want to support the channel, click on the link below, tonewars.com. Go to my website and get some awesome preset and capture and profile packs for KEMPER, Tonex, and Quad CORTEX. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there for you guys, and I know you're going to like them. They're selling like crazy, and I really appreciate everybody getting stuff from my website. It really goes a long way to support the channel. Well, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified every time I either go live or come out with a new episode. I got a lot of great stuff coming up for you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Check. Check.